Are we as a country divided by race, or are we unified by race? In the book, Don't Believe the Hype, Fighting Cultural Misinformation About African Americans, author Farai Chadia talks about how the media portrays African Americans in a negative light. In the book, Don't Believe the Hype, which talks about the cultural misinformation about African Americans, the statistics are from roughly 20 years ago. For example, the federal government budget spent about 39% of welfare funds to African Americans and 38% to whites. After doing some research, the numbers are still the same, according to the Department of Commerce. Yet the media portrays African Americans as people who take a majority of the funds. What I did was interview college students to see if misconceptions of African Americans still exist in their world many years after this book was written, and get other questions related to the issue answered. I wanted to get valuable opinions from the director of African Studies at King University, Dr. James Conyers, as well.
This perception goes all the way back to the time of slavery, when African Americans, no matter what they did, were perceived as being lazy. For instance, one of the ways that African Americans resisted enslavement in this country, and I dare say it happened to black folks in other countries too, who did exactly the same thing in other countries, whether it's Haiti, the Dominican Republic, wherever it was, right? One of the ways of resisting slavery, when you worked for nothing and you worked from sun up to sundown, had poor food, poor accommodations, your entire life was controlled, one of the ways you resisted was by, at times, feigning illness. You're too sick to work, because by doing that, you inhibited the production of the plantation for which you were not benefiting, right? Breaking tools, et cetera, et cetera. In general, and there are a number of books on this, in general, no matter how much work African Americans did on the plantation, it was deemed by the slave owner not to be enough. So African Americans, around African Americans, developed this perception among whites.
So I'm here with
Ashley.
Ashley, what's your last name?
Torres.
But why do you feel that the media, like the Wall Street Journal, select African Americans?
Because there's always that stereotype that single mothers are African American and they have like baby daddies, and they assume that they don't go out to go get a job, but it's clearly not true.
It isn't true, because in the book she really dispels that rumor. As you can see, there's still like huge companies like the Federal Reserve Bank who still discriminate against people with color. Throughout your daily activities, throughout your life, do you still feel like blacks or Latinos or people of color in general are still being judged based off the color of their skin, or do you think that we're making strides?
No, I think we're definitely still stuck in the past. I mean, those who once had stereotypes, the race that was stereotyping against the minority, are still judging. But those who were being judged, I think they're making the effort to make sure they don't stay in that statistic, because they continue to go to college and have really high degrees and jobs. Like this college, for example, is very diverse.
Do you think the media has something to do with that? The way that they portray us, so they make people who live their daily lives, regular people, think the way that they think. Do you think the media has something to do with that?
Yes, definitely. Even in like those sitcoms, African Americans are supposed to be uneducated or loud, and then Latinos are supposed to be pregnant and loud. And yeah, it's definitely affecting what people think.
So I'm here with
Lion.
During my reading, the author Farai, she was saying how if it bleeds, it leads. Why do you feel like the media seems to portray us in a negative light?
Portray who?
The African American.
I don't blame them though. It's the things that we do. Seriously, I really don't blame them. It's just, I don't know. Some people are just still stuck in old time, meaning like, oh, everybody's against me, so I gotta fight back. I gotta retaliate. I gotta be bold. I don't know what it is, but I don't blame them. I blame us. I believe if we start to act right and pretty much do what we need to do what we need to do, their view is different. But if we keep doing the same thing that they expect us doing, walking around with our pants hanging down.
How do you feel being black in America? Like, if you walk into like a white company or whatever and you're trying to get a job, what are some things that go through your mind?
Be honest with you.
And be honest,
All right,
please.
be honest with you. I always think that they're just looking at me, stereotyping me like, oh, what is this black kid doing here? He don't know nothing, this and that. I always think that in the back of my head because I'm the type of person, like, I don't know, I kind of like sense people character and sense people motive and behavior, so like, I don't know, I can easily sense it. Sometimes I am wrong, but sometimes I am right, so. But then again, that's always in the back of my head, but me, I'm a confident guy, and I have strong morals, so I'll just go in there and just be me and pretty much just do what I gotta do and just step to the plate and say, hey, I'm not that guy that you thought. You know, I'm somebody different. I'm intelligent. I can take the job, and I definitely will take this job.
Institutional racism simply means if you are a person of African descent or some other group, by virtue of being born into the skin that you have, you are born into a situation where you're going to be discriminated no matter who you are. Along with that came the whole idea of a black person being innately criminal. And then, how do you reinforce that? You reinforce that perception by organizing your society in such a way that all of your institutions make sure that those perceptions are reinforced by denying African people opportunity. So if you deny a person a job, the only thing they can do is criminal activity.
I'm here with...
My name is Jesse Gardner.
my first question to you is, if you had to choose between African Americans and whites, who do you think takes up majority of, which one do you think takes up most of the welfare budget?
I think white people.
White people?
I think mainly because, especially if we're going back to the Great Depression and back through history, it's a lot of portraying the white person being impoverished. I don't know. I just don't think when it comes to race, it's not really an indicator. It's just people are people. That's the way I look at it.
But why do you think that the media portrays African Americans as the people who take up most of the budget?
I think that the media likes to portray the people who are not specifically white as, I wouldn't say that as they're poor, but more so as they're the deviants, because they're different. They're a different race, and most of the people the founders of this country, I would say, not most of the people, but the founders of the country were originally European descended, and they have white skin tone. So that's really how this country is looked upon. It's like, oh, white people, they're the professionals, they make all the money.
Among your white friends, do you feel like the misconceptions that the media portrays is something that is ingrained in your minds, or do you go about your life judging black people because of who they are instead of how they're being portrayed?
I don't judge black people just because they're black people. I don't really have friends that do the same. The friends I have that are white, they're as racial free as I am, I would say.
As you can see, even after roughly 20 years, after Don't Believe the Hype, fighting cultural misinformation about African Americans has been written, stereotypes of negative images and news about African Americans are still being shown to the public. However, we as a society have become wise and have realized that these portrayals are not true.